Good morning. It's early for me. So Norma and Jack are out of town currently. They're visiting their son in Austin. So Shad and I are taking over the service this morning. I have to be quiet. I have to remember this is a quiet service. Start singing and you can just join in and you feel comfortable. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Repeat that. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Now we're joining together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. And we'll join together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together join together, together in peace.
Peace, 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 peace. Join together, together in peace.
Let's join together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
We are brothers, we are sisters, join together in love.
Love, 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 join together, together in love.
Love, 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 join together, together in love.
Now we'll join. Join together. 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 Join together, together in love. 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 Excellent.
It's me, not Jack. Jack and Norma are still on their road trip to see my brother down in Texas. So that's why you have the pleasure of having this little group, this little gathering. Is it possible we could turn down the theater lights and get a chance, Mike, just a little bit? I like to have a good tan, but not when I'm indoors. Get a tan. So here's a question that popped into my head this morning when I was thinking of something to talk about. And it's a pretty interesting question. The question is, should we fight against the divine plan? That probably would hit you in different waves if you just sat with that. Should we fight against the divine plan? I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to read a little bit from a couple of my favorite sources. This is from Joel S. Goldsmith in his book, Living Between Two Worlds, which you might call a modern Jewish prophet or sage. So the higher we go in the realization of our Christ identity, the greater the degree of inner unrest. That's powerful. And a lot of you have probably experienced that. And it's counterintuitive to think that the more you spiritually evolve, the more unrest you're going to feel inside. But it is in fact true. He says, things and thoughts that were entirely natural to us when we lived wholly in the realm of mind and body are very distasteful when we touch the realm of soul. Profanity and obscene stories grate on the ear, and although there is no sin in smoking and drinking, except when there is an excess indulgence in them, these things become offensive to us after we've been abiding for a while in the realm of the soul. All the little trickeries and deceits of human life set up an inner conflict. Entering the soul realm, is not really a kind of hop, skip, and jump onto cloud 9, and from then on having no awareness of the rest of the world about us. It is a gradual evolution out of this world into the world of soul. Eventually, when we are far enough along in the realm of the soul, these once distasteful things do not irritate us so much, and sometimes do not even register in our consciousness. We don't often talk about this process, that as you begin to spiritually evolve, things actually get more difficult. Because as he says, the things that were once just commonplace in your life and acceptable, and you didn't even notice because they were your patterns, they were your habits that you had never drawn attention to before, once you start to elevate up enough above them, they become blaringly obvious, such as the voices in your head when you try to meditate. You likely did not even really notice them that much until you sat down for a half an hour and tried not to think of anything. And all of a sudden you realize there is a symphony full of voices chattering in your mind constantly. And in fact, they are running the show most of your day. And then you realize perhaps alcohol is not something I need in my life anymore, and I have a distaste for alcohol, or eggs, or gluten, or whatever it might be. The things that are sitting within us and we're ignoring and we're not paying attention to, all of a sudden as we start to spiritually elevate, start to become blaringly obvious, which might not be so bad, except then we realize they're really hard to stop. Once you recognize those voices, they're really hard to shut up. They love to chatter. And maybe it's not so easy to stop drinking when all of our friends around us are drinking. Not that that's bad, but as he says, if it's in excess and you realize it's been in excess in your life and maybe it's time to scale back, that might not be the easiest thing. Maybe it's gossiping or judging others and it starts to become blatantly obvious that you've been doing too much of that as you start to spiritually evolve. But it's really hard to stop. Because in my case, I was considered funny. I was really good at making fun of other people around me, and people got a good laugh out of that. And that's sort of was my base of humor. If I stop making fun of people, I lose that laughter I get out of it. I lose what people actually enjoy being around me for. And so all of a sudden I'm losing sort of my social connection, because people knew me for that particular thing. And then I stopped drinking, and when you do that, you pretty much lose all your friends right off the bat. I'm just kidding. They just give you a really hard time. So then you go through this process where you start to recognize the things that are no longer okay. And that's a difficult process to go through, and it's an ongoing process as you're elevating through this struggle. And as the more I meditate, the deeper I meditate, the longer I meditate, the more things about myself that disgust me. And not just are annoying to me anymore, but they absolutely disgust me. And I now get to a point where I don't even relate that as a part of me because it's so disgusting to me. And I have a conversation with it and I say, you are no longer welcome here. as if I was talking to someone who broke into my house. It's become so disgusting to me that I can't even relate to it as mine anymore. Whatever it is that's left in there, you need to go. It's time for you to go. Because where I'm trying to be, you cannot come with me. That's also a very hard process, because every time that little face rears itself, it's revolting and it's depressing to realize that that's actually a part of me that's still there that I have not gotten rid of yet. And so that is a part of this process. And that's something that meditation teachers don't necessarily talk about. They talk about, oh, you're going to start feeling more uplifted, you'll be more positive, and you'll start talking more kindly to people. Actually, at first, you might become a jerk because you become really frustrated with what you're finding inside of there. But that is a good sign, because you're starting to unroot the weeds. You're starting to see that there's weeds there to work on. And it's the meditation that's going to move you successfully through that process. But some people give up right there. I remember actually being at a kids camp and talking to a fellow kids camp counselor. And he said, people don't tell you this meditation stuff is dangerous. I saw stuff in myself I didn't want to see. I just couldn't go any further. Well, that's when you need to go further. It's not like it went away just because you stopped meditating. It just means you started ignoring it again and allowing it to be so. Everyone else was probably seeing it, you just weren't. So then he talks about the third stage, that you actually elevate out of even recognizing those things as a problem in the first place. And that's something that we really struggle with. Because as we exist in a world of rights and wrongs, which is the world of duality, there's a part of us that has to believe there's something called right. We have to believe that we can stand on the side of right and look at the side of wrong. We have to have that belief. But he's saying, even if you move through the process of working through all the things in yourself that you thought were right or wrong, you could come to an awareness, a Christ awareness, to realize that none of that existed in the first place. Now here's the problem with unity. We want to skip from the beginning to the end. We want to pretend we can go straight to the spot where we don't see anything that's wrong. We don't have to deal with all that stuff that's inside of us. We can just say, it's all good. It's all okay. It's all part of the divine plan. And we can spiritual bypass doing anything with the horrors and tragedies happening in our world today. You see how this question gets more and more complicated the more you dive into it? Should we fight against the divine plan? Well, first you'd have to know what the divine plan is, which means you'd then have to be at the third stage of that evolution that Joel Goldsmith's talking about. You'd have to be one with the divine to understand what a divine plan is, or you'd have to be having moments where you peer into that consciousness. Maybe you're not fully there yet, but you're starting to tap into what could be the possibility of a divine plan. To even know then at that point that you're working in resistance to the divine plan. But initially you might be fighting something, sitting at that second tier, and you don't know if maybe that is a part of the divine plan or not. Maybe this thing is supposed to be unfolding in your life, or maybe it's supposed to be unfolding in the world, and that is a part of the natural divine plan, and here I am out putting all this energy into fighting it when it's supposed to naturally unfold. Not such an easy question, is it? Let's read a little bit more. Well, I'm going to make a point here, and then he's going to follow up on this point. If you ever get in a debate with someone who has some Bible knowledge, and you start to talk about peace is where we're trying to go, and the exemplification of peace in Jesus Christ and the Christ nature he came into, they're almost always going to bring up when he went into the temple and he turned over the tables of the money chambers and a whip of reeds. He was whipping them out of the temple and said, "You're turning my house into a den of thieves." And they say, see, he got angry and he got violent to push his cause. People love to use that one instance to justify forcefully pushing a cause. So this is what Joel S. Goldsmith has to say about that. He's talking about that exact scenario. I doubt very much that Jesus Christ, in his present consciousness, would upset the table of the money changers or call anyone a viper. I doubt very much if he would even see or hear anything to bring forth such sentiments. Instead, as it hit upon his consciousness, it would be healed, dissolved, or removed. I'm sure that when he came into the presence of the woman taken in adultery and the thief on the cross, he felt no horror or disgust. He was not even aware of the presence of iniquity. It just touched his consciousness and was dissolved without bringing forth from him any resentment. So really he's pointing out that even Jesus Christ, as we read about him in the Bible, was still going through his spiritual growth. And we might say that the very last moment of his growth we get to read about, which is on the cross, when he says, "Not my will, but thine, it is finished." And that was the very last step. We think that's when he died, but in fact that was the very last step of his spiritual evolution, when he became nothing but Christ consciousness and released himself of the physical form. So we assume when Jesus first stepped on the scene, he's all perfect, he's everything he was meant to be. No, we're still watching him grow through this process. We still see him getting frustrated with his disciples. We still see him going through this process, still going to the temple to try to prove his point with the Old Gospel and the Old Testament. We see this process as he's growing. The final step is complete release of any ego whatsoever that might have been left inside him. And he simply says, it's finished. There is no will of the little Jesus man. There is only the will of God that he releases himself into at that moment. So people would like to hold on to that moment to say, well, look, he got frustrated. Yeah, he was still a human being on his spiritual path. He still saw injustice, and he still acted upon it. And he was actually doing the right thing, because that's where he was in his spiritual development. So, should we fight against the divine plan? Well, maybe there's a different technique. Someday, when we can behold the Christ in our presidents, in our congressmen, and in the dictators of the world, instead of seeing them as they appear to be, we will heal the world nationally and internationally. Probably you think that this is easy, but it isn't. And that is the cause of discord and inharmony within ourselves. That is why this path is not an easy one. It demands that we persist until the day comes when we can look right into the soul of even those we consider the most wicked, and there behold the incarnation of God. We can be assured that when there are those capable of this, there will be permanent peace on earth. I love that idea. I think our idea of a peaceful planet is when we've gotten all people to evolve out of their lower nature. But what if it just exists that the other people only can see those people as their highest self? We no longer can see anything as a bad act. We no longer can see someone as being egotistical. We no longer can see someone as expressing as their lower nature. We can only see God. And by doing so, we heal that person. And there's an instantaneous shift into peace on this planet, because those that were evolving evolved enough to no longer see anything but peace. And peace was instantaneously created in that moment. We keep trying to fix others. It is a full-time job, especially in this culture, trying to fix others. The peace that surpasses understanding that Jesus was talking about can only and will only come about in and through us and as us. It will not ever come about by fixing the circumstances around us. We've been trying to do that since we arrived on this planet hundreds of thousands of years ago, and we're still mostly just as immature as we were when we first got here. Except now, instead of banging rocks against rocks, we're staring at a phone and tapping it with our finger. It was this, now it's this. You see, it's slight evolution. So this is from Paramahansa Yogananda. This is a great book. It's just short little tidbits. It's called The Master Said. And after Paramahansa Yogananda passed, his students got together and decided to try to get into writing all the things he said that he never wrote down, interactions they had with him that they thought was really insightful. So each one sort of contributed one interaction they saw they had with their master, and then they put it into writing. So it always starts with sort of the student's question they brought to him or situation they proposed, and then his answer. So this is the student speaking. It does not seem right that the Heavenly Father should allow so much misery in the world, a student remarked. Paramahansaji replied, no cruelty exists in God's plan, because in his eyes there is no good or evil, only pictures of light and shadows. The Lord intended us to view the dualistic scenes of life as he does himself, the ever-joyous witness of a stupendous cosmic drama. Man has falsely identified himself with the pseudo-soul or ego. When he transfers his sense of identity to his true being, the immortal soul, he discovers that all pain is unreal. He no longer can even imagine the state of suffering. The Guru added, great masters who come to earth to help their bewildered brothers are permitted by God to share, on a certain level of their minds, the sorrows of mankind. But that sympathetic participation in human feelings does not disturb deeper levels of consciousness on which saints experience only changeless beatitude. I've wound up having conversations over the years with several different people that come to the conclusion, then why do anything? If all this really is just a projection of light and shadow, why do anything? I had a mother come to me and she said, I'm raising children. How can I possibly explain to them that none of this matters and expect that they're going to become anything? How can I explain to them that there is no such thing as good or bad and expect that their lives are going to unfold appropriately? And here's what it really comes down to. The opportunity to access spiritual growth. Suffering is very real while we're in the human experience. And while you're in suffering, it is very hard to meditate and to spiritually grow. So it is incumbent upon those who are elevating out of suffering or are not currently in suffering or getting a consciousness that no longer recognizes suffering to help those that are still in suffering, whether it is technically real or not. Because their access to spiritual growth has been encumbered. If you've ever tried meditating when you have food poisoning, good luck. So we act to help others to create the opportunity for everyone to spiritually grow. And if one group of people is being unfairly held down, we must act to create the opportunity for equality so all of us can spiritually grow. The divine plan, if nothing else, is to try to get all of us to spiritually grow. So we are to act in accordance with trying to help that happen. If we are resisting that, we are fighting the divine plan. If we're falling into fear and gossip and spreading more fear and gossip and rumors and untruths and more fear, we are fighting the divine plan, because when you're in fear, it's hard to spiritually grow. So it is incumbent upon us to work. And so I told that mother that day, I said, let's assume your child wants to be an astronaut. And you could tell him, there's no point in that. God's not in space. None of this is real. Why go after being an astronaut? I said, well, we're here for some reason. We exist in physical form for some reason. There's a growth process to take place, and actually more important than that, I think it's a place to play. We've come here to play. We've come here to find joy. Ultimately, this is a game. And how we play it determines how much fun we all get to have. And if we play it in a way that keeps other people from having fun, then we lose the game. Because it's about how much fun can we all have. So I said, your child is on the path of the game called astronaut. And they get to play that game. But if their happiness depends on becoming an astronaut, they lose that game. Because there's no guarantee that they will become an astronaut. In their time going to school, they're going to spend more time studying science, biology, psychology, all the things that an astronaut must be a master at. And if they can't find joy in that part of the game, and they're miserable through all that, thinking that the end goal of being an astronaut is going to create joy, then they've lost the game. The game is about finding the most joy now for all. There's no guarantee in the end goal that you get to become an astronaut, a fireman, or the president. So the game you're playing, you're going to have to learn to enjoy now and every step of the way. Most actors in LA and New York City are 99.9999% waiters and waitresses. If you don't enjoy the game of waiting tables, you probably shouldn't go after becoming an actor or an actress. Because that's part of it. There's no guarantee you ever get to be on the big screen. The joy comes in where you are right now in this process. I think I've made my point, if there was one to be made. So we're going to meditate. We're going to do this practice, which is an amazing practice because it not only helps us spiritually grow, it's actually raising the awareness of people around us and facilitating their growth as well. And when we come together in groups like this, we actually quicken that growth for each other, which is a beautiful and amazing thing, which is really proof to the power of giving and receiving. I'm going to ring this bowl for probably 3 or 4 minutes to bring us into meditation, and then we'll go into silence for about 10 minutes. I'm going to ring the bowl again, probably about another 3 or 4 minutes to bring us out of this meditation. And then we'll go into some more music with Aaron, Louie, and Larry. So I invite you to get you in meditative posture if you have not done that yet. To find your placement, we're trying to look for a perfect channel between the tip of the tailbone and the top of the head, the alignment of the chakras to allow the energy to flow, and ultimately to allow the kundalini to release up the spine. You can bring your attention to your breath. And I always like to invite people to take a last moment to make any micro adjustments that their body needs. You check if there's any point of tension or discomfort or even an itch that you need to take care of now so that you can spend more time unannoyed by the body trying to grab your attention as it resists the meditation, because it's somewhat foreign to the body to sit still for so long. And so we begin.
this beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day.
This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends.
Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends.
My loving, my loving, my loving friends.
My loving, my loving, my loving friends.
Thank you for this earth, Spirit. Thank you for this earth.
Thank you for this earth, Spirit. Thank you for this earth.
This nurturing, this nurturing, this nurturing earth.
This nurturing, this nurturing, this nurturing earth.
I want to say thank you.
I want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health.
Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health.
My perfect, my perfect, my perfect health.
My perfect, my perfect, my perfect health.
Thank you for this space, Spirit. Thank you for this space.
Thank you for this space, Spirit. Thank you for this space.
This blessed, this blessed, this blessed space.
This blessed, this blessed, this blessed space.
Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing love.
I want to say thank you.
I want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good stuff. Maynard? We won't be passing the baskets due to situations beyond my personal control, as much as I've tried to sway the entire planet. But we will have the boxes out by the door as you exit there if you have a physical donation to make there. The dip jars are also just outside the doors here if you have a credit card donation to make. And then, of course, we have our many ways of text to give, online giving, that sort of stuff to be a part of that. And if you were able to set up a recurring donation, that does a big help to help us budget from month to month, so we have a better idea of what's coming in consistently. We do have some announcements coming up. I'm starting an abundance class, which is going to be a seven classes, 7 sessions, twice. It's going to be twice a week. It's going to be 3 weeks long. It's starting July 9th, Thursday, July 9th. That'll be 7 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. If you're a type of person looking for SEE credit, that is available for elective SEE credit, which is Unity credit towards licensing or ordination or something like that. That's $10 to register, and you'll do that online. You can just go to the website and find the event page for that, and you can register right there. Nia Dance is coming back to Unity of Boulder as we're opening up again. It's on Tuesdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. if you want to be a part of that. You need to email us to let us know you'll be there to reserve a spot, since we can only have 9 people in there plus the instructor. So you can email us at info@unityofboulder.com. Let them know which day, Tuesday or Friday, you want to be there for 9 a.m. And that is $13 per class, or you can purchase a card for $100, which is a 10 punch card, which makes it $10 a class. We are co-hosting a service project with Cheese and Porters from Longmont. If you're familiar with Cheese and Porters, it's a wonderful little French pastry and cheese and, what would you call it, patisserie? Okay, we'll call it that. They're putting together a homeless outreach program, which is going to be a series of online concerts. And it's under the acronym HOPE, which is Homeless Outreach Providing something. Encouragement, there it is. Homeless Outreach Providing Encouragement. There's a suggested donation of $20 for that to be a part of those online concerts. And I could give you the website, but it's so long. Just check our social media and our website to get the information for that and to help us support that process. Speaking of supporting, we're accepting donations for Wounded Knee again. So they've had their roads closed for quite a long time to this process, and their supplies are significantly reduced. So we're trying to collect non-perishable food items for them over the next 2 weeks. So you can bring those in. If you've been already bringing food, we really appreciate that. So now you can double up and bring even more as we try to get up that to the Wounded Knee reservation, which is, I think, classified as the most impoverished part of the United States, which is pretty wild. So they could use our help. All right, I think we've done it. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here and sharing this space with me and all of us. And of course, try to hold on to that seed of stillness that we've created here as you go on throughout your week. And don't let things just knock you off center. Just hold on to that little anchor everywhere you go. Have a beautiful weekend.